Apple's Pro desktop could have up to 40 cores. This rumor was broken by Mark Gurman about Apple's impending ARM transition plans, and there's actually a handful of rumors. Let's get through all of them. So first up is that new MacBook Pros, a 14-inch and 16-inch, are shockingly coming featuring Apple Silicon. I don't think anybody saw this coming. New Macs with Apple Silicon. No. They were going to have this segmented line forever. Apple Silicon and Intel living in perfect harmony. No, not happening. They will have...
Apple doesn't like doing their own thing in-house ever.
No.
So
they're going to have 4 Thunderbolt ports, HDMI, and an SD card slot. Man, having HDMI back, how freaking awesome is that going to be for all the people that don't have HDMI on their laptop already? Like, what an upgrade. I actually ran a Dell XPS 13 2-in-1 as a daily driver for almost a year, I think, and that was the thing that drove me most crazy. I thought it was going to be USB, like a USB Type A, and from time to time, that was pretty obnoxious because my YubiKey is a Type A, and I do like to use a mouse if I'm actually sitting and doing something for a while at the computer. I don't really prefer wireless mice. Bluetooth I find noticeably laggy. Man, I'd just love to see an industry standard for something like Logitech's Lightspeed.
I was going to say, have you properly tried Lightspeed? Because Lightspeed feels really good.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you need a dongle. They're all Type A. So basically, you're stuck with a dongle no matter what if you want to plug a decent mouse into your laptop. But that wasn't the one that drove me most crazy. The one that drove me most crazy most often was not having HDMI, because you never know if you're going to be somewhere doing something. Like, for example, I was working on that badminton game streaming setup at the badminton center. It's amazing how many people saw that streaming setup and were like, ew, creepy, Linus watching kids. You guys understand that the reason it's all on a computer running OBS is because they control the whole thing locally, right? Like, do you guys think I'm a idiot? I just don't understand the kinds of comments on videos sometimes. Like, oh, creepy pedophile vibes. If I was one of the parents, I'd be outraged. If you were one of the parents, you'd be doing what all the parents are doing and sending me thankful messages that you get to watch your kid's tournament. That's what actually happened, you morons. Anyway, sorry. I digress.
Especially during COVID when they're not supposed to be there.
Well,
right?
They're not allowed. Yeah. That's the whole point. Yeah. That's why we did
Linus gave the infrastructure to the club to be able to serve this to their customers, because they wouldn't have done it otherwise. And now it's better for everyone.
And the other thing is, like, the people that assume that it was just a constant live stream, like, what? It's like, you don't even understand how this works. 99% of the time, they're just recording locally so that they can, like, do coaching and analysis on their games that they play. Like, anyway, so I was there working on it, and I was having an issue with one of the capture devices, and theoretically it was supposed to be getting a signal from the camera, but it wasn't. And the thing about a camera is that it's not that easy to change the output resolution or frame rate or format or whatever else. So it's really hard to troubleshoot. Is my capture card actually dead, or is this an issue with the camera? And just having a laptop that you can just plug an HDMI cable into and use to diagnose can be extremely useful. Or if you're, I never travel anymore and give presentations or anything, but even if you're just having a meeting, you want to quickly throw something up on the projector at work, it's a pain in the butt to have to dig into your bag for a dongle. And I'm glad that Apple is leading the charge back to sanity by putting some ports on their freaking products, because as soon as Apple does it, the entire rest of the industry will go, okay, let's all do the same thing now. Thanks, Apple. Great idea. Without really giving it any thought whatsoever, as far as I can tell. And so it's one of those things where I don't actually daily drive a ton of Apple products, particularly Macs, because I'm more familiar with Windows. Honestly, I don't hate Mac OS. It's just, I'm more familiar with Windows, and unless I'm at work, I'm playing video games on my computer, and Macs just ain't perfect for that. So it's not like I actually daily drive them, but I still have to care what they do. A lot of people ask, like, why do you guys cover so much Apple stuff at Linus Tech Tips? It's obvious you hate them, or that you don't use them, or whatever. The reason is because it's so important to the industry. What Apple does, the entire rest of the industry will copy, often worse. So you need Apple to be setting the golden standard for the behavior that you want to see in the rest of the industry, because otherwise it's going to just
It does
proliferate.
seem like very consistently everyone will take the chance to cop out. Like
Absolutely.
if Apple kind of drops the ball somewhere, they'll be like, nice, that's the bar, and I can go slightly below it.
Exactly.
Like, it's very uncommon that people will be like, oh, we can go much above the standard that they set.
These will be running upgraded CPUs, these new MacBook Pros, known internally as Jade C Chop and Jade C Die. Okay. Both include 8 high-performance cores and 2 energy-efficient cores, and will be offered in either 16 or 32 graphics core variations, and can have up to 64 gigs of RAM. That's a far more professional-sounding configuration than the MacBook Pro that we did get last time around that was limited to just 16 gigs, which is fine a few years ago, but really not ideal for anything with Pro in the name today. Unless it's an iPad Pro. I'm still pretty stoked on the new iPad Pro. There's a new Mac Pro, though. This will apparently be coming sometime down the line and will be powered by Codename Jade 2C Die and Jade 4C Die. So these will be 20 or 40 core configurations with 16 or 32 high-performance cores and then 4 to 8 efficient cores. Like, imagine that. You've got an 8-core CPU that's like your power sipping, barely doing anything one. GPUs would be either 64 or 128 core options. And while these will probably have to be clocked lower in order to hit those kinds of core counts, I would expect, based on what we've seen so far from Apple's silicon, that they're not going to be clocked that much lower. And these are going to be absolute monsters in terms of performance. Design and engineering has apparently been in the works for several months and is expected to look like a smaller version of the current design. I don't know what smaller version of the current design means, but maybe they meant that it's going to be built on a new process node and then it'll just be kind of multiplied. We don't know, I think
they're not talking about the processor there.
Oh, the actual shape of the machine.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was like, hold on a second.
That would be pretty weird.
I know there's folks out there working on kind of, taking microscope shots of Apple's M1 silicon and trying to figure out trying to connect the dots, figure out exactly how it works. Like, is it modular? What do the internal buses look like? I know that kind of work is going on right now, but, I thought this is what we were talking about. Okay. There will apparently also be a new Pro Mac Mini, codename J374. I actually love this because looking at the existing M1 Mac Mini, there's no reason that there couldn't be way more computer in there. It's basically a mostly empty shell. So, and like the Mac Mini, honestly, is my favorite Mac. I'm on the record saying that I think it is super.
There's a lot more value there too.
It's super quiet. It's incredibly small. Now that it's running M1 silicon, it's powerful. It doesn't throttle. It's cheap. It's actually cheap. It's like a computer for everyone, but it runs Mac OS. It's like you pick up one of those, grab some cheap peripherals and a monitor off Craigslist. You are up and running with a computer that is probably going to be getting OS support for like somewhere between 7 and 12 years. That's it. That's all the computer that your auntie needs for the next decade, in all likelihood. Like, that's a lot of bang for the buck. If you could have a decent computer for $8 a month, that sounds pretty reasonable, right? You think about it that way. And actually, I was rounding up to $1,000. They start at like $700 or $600. I can't remember.
It's weird these days. I mean, it's been a really long time since this was normal, but it's weird these days to talk about Apple and like value.
Bang for the buck, baby.
Bang for the buck. But yeah, Mac Minis have always just kind of been there and been a pretty good idea.
Yep. And now they're just a better idea than before. Now I'm really curious. I have to know. Oh man, not United Arab Emirates, not United Kingdom, United States. Thank you. Apple's one of those sites that you can't just manually navigate to the US site. It will redirect you until you go to the Canadian one and go down to the bottom. No, I really do not want this one. Yeah, it starts at 700. So that's a freaking heck of a deal. All right, so the new Pro Mac Mini, going to be even better. It's going to have 4 Thunderbolt ports, same chips as the MacBook Pros, and they're apparently been working on a larger iMac, but development was paused for the release of the 24-inch colored model. And they're doing a redesigned higher-end MacBook Air. MacBook Air, man, why did Apple do that product so dirty over the years? Like, it was the only thin and light that mattered on the market for, I mean, forever.
It kind of defined that whole sector, didn't it?
It really did. It defined the
Ultrabook.
Ultrabook.
Old ad where you put the MacBook Air in the envelope was actually like, I have never been a Mac guy. I shared that to like everyone that I knew. I was like, this is so cool. This is like the future of laptops. This is the future of like tech. Like, oh my goodness, this is wild.
It moved the bar. It changed the expectations. Yeah. And then for years, it just had this like tier low resolution screen, even though and then the MacBook came out and it was basically the Air, but better in every way. But then you could still get a MacBook Air for some reason. Like they
started making Air like the cheapo option instead of like the really thin, sleek option, which is weird because they had fantastic branding for that. Like everyone understood what it was.
Yep.
And liked it.
The intentionally worse option, like when they just didn't put cooling in it, even though they absolutely had all the space in the world to do it.
They essentially changed it from like Air to like the light, like LITE, like. This is the cut down version instead of this is the like slim, sleek, and awesome one.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that they're going to have a proper high-end MacBook Air. So it'll be using the M1 successor, codenamed Staten, with faster CPU cores and probably 2 more GPU cores.